Hello, and welcome to episode 91 of the Accountant Success Secrets podcast. Each week, we talk with an accountant whose journey we hope will inspire others in practice. I'm one of your co-hosts, Mark Lee, mentor, speaker, and debunker for accountants, and founder of the Soul Practice Club.
And I'm Philippa Haynes, the other one, brand strategist for accountants and bookkeepers, helping you to stand out for all the right reasons. So our interviewees are all different. They have different backgrounds, different goals, different reasons for setting up their practice, and different experiences along the way.
So we explore their personal stories, the highs, the lows, and the lessons learned, what makes them tick, and what others can take away.
Yep, and it's all about getting some useful insights for you so that you can apply them straight away.
That's right. And some of our guests have been in practice just 5 or 6 years, some somewhat longer. If you'd like to share your story in a future episode, do get in touch.
Right, so today this is our 73rd interview. So we've done more, but we do those reflection sessions if you remember rightly.
More episodes. We haven't done more.
Yes.
We've done 73 interviews.
Yeah. We are delighted to introduce Jonathan Vowles, who runs JVCA based in Cranfield near Cambridge, which he set up some time back. Along with his small team, Jonathan has worked with hundreds of companies from startups to established firms. He qualified with the ICAEW, is also a member of the CIOT, and is a graduate of the Business Growth Programme at Cranfield School of Management. He's very keen to be seen as a friendly accountant, and his website supports this, even to the extent that the FAQs are focused around the biscuit and teas on offer when clients visit his office. I love that.
Yeah. Welcome, Jonathan. Delighted to have you here. What would you like to add or clarify in that intro?
Delighted to be here. It's at this point when talking to other accountants or those who might be interested, I say, I started the business last century in the cupboard under the stairs, a bit like Harry Potter, but it really was. It's quite weird.
I hesitated from putting at the end of the last century in the intro there. It was very much the words.
There was a lot less salt in the beard back then.
Yes.
Oh, well, listen, we're going to find out so much more about this in the next 30 minutes, but let's thank our sponsor first, Pinnacle Global Group, the trusted offshoring partner to over 150 accounting and bookkeeping firms across the UK and Ireland. They're led by London-based chartered accountant Mayank Pandya. They've got offices in London and Mumbai and a team of over 300 professionals. They provide compliance resourcing from accountants, bookkeepers and payroll admins to tax and audit associates, but also the value-added stuff, including management accountants, virtual finance controllers, financial analysts, and more. And of course, they are GDPR compliant, ISO certified, covered by professional indemnity insurance, and offer flexible models, full-time, part-time, or pay as you go. You can even start with a trial period or join their sponsored trip to Mumbai to meet the rest of the team in person. So to find out more, please go to www.pinnacleoss.co.uk or click the link wherever you're listening to this podcast.
Also supporting the podcast is the Tax Advice Network. Their website enables accountants to choose specific specialist tax advisors for general tax support or for help across any of over 100 areas of tax. It's free to use. You just pay the tax advisor that you choose after agreeing terms with them, whether for ad hoc advice or for a regular tax clinic type support service for your practice. Go take a look at their website, find a taxadvisor.online, where you can also register to get their weekly tax tips, which are written especially for general practitioner accountants.
And finally, before we start, a reminder, you can support the podcast and get exclusive bonus content by subscribing on Patreon.
Just download the Patreon app, subscribe, and you'll get the bonus episodes through your usual podcast player. Details are in the show notes.
Right, back to Jonathan. And we like to keep the podcast to around 30 minutes, and we do that by focusing on the following questions.
Well, I'll go first. And very briefly, Jonathan, because as you say, it was a long time ago, what was it that led you into... I go back even further, I will admit. having realised you started training at a firm that I joined a long time after I qualified. Oh my goodness! But how did you come to set up your own practice, and how did you get your first clients? And do you think anyone would still do that the same way today?
Oh, would they do it the same way? I don't know. I guess everyone's got their own process, systems, interests, and all the rest of it. So I was a bit of a late starter to life because at 18, I thought I was going to become a hotel manager.
Oh,
and a year of working in hotels proved that actually I'm pretty rubbish at I love talking to people, but I was not particularly good at everything else. And so having gone to college to get a hotel catering qualification and work in the industry, I then went back and did university to gain an accountancy qualification. And I think I kind of stunned McIntyre Hudson back in the day because I actually walked into their Milton Keynes office and said, "Giss a job," and had an impromptu 5 minutes with one of the partners who basically said, come back in a year's time when when your course ends and fill in a proper application form, which I did. And they took me on. I had lots of interviews. It wasn't the only thing I was doing, but it was the one I wanted. Rather than going to all the interviews and thinking I'd get loads of offers, I was really pinning my hopes on MacHud, and they came good. And I had a gloriously happy 5 years with them, right up to the 1992 recession. At which point I felt I had an insecure job. A few of my colleagues had been made redundant and that sort of thing. So I jumped ship to Grant Thornton, and Grant Thornton and I didn't fit. I think that's the kindest way to explain it. They hired me to work in the tax department, and in the 3 years I worked for them, I worked in personal tax, corporate tax, small business, financial services, insolvency tax, and I found Grant Thornton to be very square, and I was not a square peg. I was definitely a round peg. So
we should say, in all fairness, that was Grant Thornton in the mid-90s. I'm sure it's a very different firm now.
Oh yes, and also actually, after a lifetime of being the round peg that doesn't fit anywhere, it's very definitely me. My PA and fellow partner would say it is definitely me as well. So that it wasn't cheating. Because I've got such broad, eclectic interests. Pinning me down on anything is really quite awkward.
So how did you set up?
So after GT, I did nearly 5 years in industry.
Oh, right.
Working for one of the biggest corporates. It was a $1 billion corporate, and this was back in the day when there weren't very many of those.
It lasted longer than they do today.
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, I was in a division of 5 companies spread across Europe. Started out as CFO. They promoted me to finance director, but only for the last 6 months because I made everybody else redundant, shut the lights, and they gave me redundancy as I left the building. And but that gave me the comfort blanket, money in the bank to set up my own practice. And I'd always wanted. Yeah, I didn't actually need the money. I later used it for something else, but it gave me the comfort blanket, the feeling that it didn't matter how badly I bogged it up, I still had 6 months worth of mortgage payments in the bank, and I still have 6 months worth of mortgage payments in the bank. But that comfort blanket was very, very useful, very welcome.
Yeah, I bet. So how did you go about setting up? I think I can work out where the name came from, JVCA. But how did you set it up?
And strangely enough, when I first started, it was Jonathan Vowles, chartered accountant, and the logo was black and red because the word processors back in the day were actually typewriters, and you only had the black and red colours of the ribbons. And as soon as I'd upgraded from a typewriter to a computer, and actually, paid out money to a local printer, we went with greens and blues that are in the logo today. But I decided that I wanted, I guess, for those who've read the E-Myth, I wanted the self-control and the happiness that comes with having your own business. Like a lot of other accountants who set up their own practice, I suspect they were equally jolly good technicians, and some of them might even have been slightly commercial businessmen. I was not a slightly commercial businessman. I was an idiot. And
whereas I thought you were going to say that your 5 years in industry had given you that business acumen.
It had given me all sorts of bits and pieces, and I got my practicing certificate within a year of qualifying, and so I'd started doing, families' tax returns and my next door neighbours' tax returns. And so I'd had, maybe half a dozen really tiny clients, pin money. It was just enough to cover the cost of a summer holiday.
What we call a side hustle these days.
Yes, yeah, very much so. So that was the process of starting up, and the side hustle meant that I had to deal with all the stuff that I hadn't whilst working in a big practice. I'd had to think about pricing and quoting and letters of engagement and all of the PI insurance. My first PI insurance was £125 for the year. If only I had anywhere close to that now. So the lots of very useful learning curve items, and every so often when I want a good laugh, I go back to my very first business plan, because it's I'd written it. I was qualified. I'd had a bit of a side hustle going on, and I was going to go full time. And I wrote a business plan, and it had plan A, just set up and be myself. Plan B, go into partnership with somebody. The various somebodies I talked to, either they or I decided the other person was a nutter and no way we were going to go into partnership. It's all about personalities. Either you jelly or don't you?
Yeah.
So one of the questions that we ask is, where are you now compared to where you thought you were? And I suspect that with that business plan, it's very different. So tell us what happened and where you are now.
Okay. So I've been in practice on my own account, either as a sole trader or as a limited company, since full time since 1998. And I had a gradual start. I think I'm very good technically, and I was technically a good accountant. I built customers because I was the cheapest accountant in the world, and it took me 4 years to realise I was an idiot and to stop being the cheapest accountant in the world, because everything was going well, cash was flowing, clients were coming, added in staff members and all those sorts of things, and then why don't the numbers add up to money in my pocket at the end of the month? And that is a never-ending question for most small business accountants, I anticipate. But I'd taken the view that I wanted a firm, not a job. So I was never going to be a sole practitioner that was just me and an admin person. I wanted a team. I wanted the team to do the doing, so that I could be the partner in much the same way that I'd seen people in Macintyre Hudson and in Grant Thornton. So I gradually built my firm up, and I got to the point where I had 18 staff.
Gosh.
And then I had £145,000 bad debt. Now, for those of our listeners who say, "You idiot," absolutely, I was. Let me turn this into a life lesson for all of those of you who are in practice and are listening.
Excellent.
This built up over 5 months. I had a very big client who said, "Please, would I be a complete accounting service for him?" I was doing everything. I had a team of 3 people full time on this service. The agreement was he would pay me monthly. However, I hadn't set up an automatic payment. It was reliant on the other party saying, "Have some money." At the end of the first month, he paid me half of the bill. In the middle of the second month, he paid me a bit more on account. At the end of the third month, he paid me a little bit more on account. At the end of the fourth month, I said, "You're on stop." By which point, I was toast, because he owed me more money than some people have on their mortgages. In month 5, the liquidators arrived, and I was out £145,000.
Jesus. And of course, at some point during that period, you were thinking, well, if I don't carry on working for them, they're going to go bust and I won't get paid. So I'll carry on working for them in the hope that I can help them turn it around to get paid.
That's right. So we now almost always, not 100%, but almost always insist that our clients set up a monthly direct debit. So paying is not in their control unless their bank account is empty.
Yeah.
If they don't want to set up a direct debit, well, don't want to pay us. Now, we do have some larger businesses where, we don't do direct debits. We do a backs run, but we'll still pay you monthly. And some of our customers are not on direct debit, but otherwise everybody's on direct debit. Back in the noughties, pre all the cloud software, we had a chip and pin machine, and we could take money over the phone, and that was another game changer in collecting money. But nowadays we're completely app driven. If your software is not on the cloud, sorry, we won't even contemplate it.
Excellent.
We'd almost got to that point by the pandemic. We had 5 customers on Sage 50 that were desktop based, and everything else, including the phone systems, were cloud based. And when the pandemic came, Tuesday the 23rd of March or February, whatever it was, February, wasn't it? And everyone came in the morning. By lunchtime, everybody was in their car, some of them with their desktop because they didn't have a laptop, sitting on the back seat. But business as usual the next day. Although we then realized that our practice management software was actually a whiteboard, not a cloud-based app. And it took us a month to organize what app we would use, but very quickly into a proper management app.
And are you if you don't want to, don't, but are you happy to share how many clients you've got and how big the team is now? I assume that debt forced you to lose some staff, unfortunately.
I had 2 or 3 things. So at the point I was 18 staff, huge debt. We shed it took 3 months, but
Yeah.
we said I think 3 members of the team. Strangely, one of them was not. We kept one of the ones from the team I'd recruited for this big client, and she is now still with me and doing a blinding job.
How wonderful.
But yeah, we shared clients. My manager at the time decided he'd had enough of working for me, but it took him 4 or 5 months to come to that realization. It took me until he actually said, I'm going to resign, to come to that realization. And in the meantime, my client service dropped through the floor. So we went from 18 staff down to 10 in 6 months. And since then, we've gone down to 8, 2 of which are offshored in Mumbai. So we have 2 full-time team members there. And it took us 2 goes to get an offshoring partner that was right for us. And partly that was systems and processes. Partly that was personnel. Having a member of staff in a different country simply means that your problems become slightly different, not that they go away. You still have the same one, what are their skill sets, what's their personality, what's their time and organizational skills and all those sorts of things. But when I lost quite a few staff, as I explained, and I got to September with basically a 5-month backlog of work, and looking forward to January, I could see, well, I might well have a 9-month backlog by the time I get to January.
Oh my goodness.
So I engaged an outsourcer. Rather than saying I'll have, a member of staff or whatever, I just said, right, I'm just going to give you all of these outstanding jobs. So basically, they did my, by the time they got it, it was nearly 7 months worth of backlog in 2 months.
Yeah.
And
so what have you learned?
Saved.
Yeah. What have you learned? Because we have a question about what have you learned and also what mistakes have you made, which I suspect we can splice together. But just kind of looking at this now, once it's all over, what have you learned around that, and what have you learned about yourself? Because you've said several times that you're an idiot and that you're you're an acquired taste. So
which you're not.
Which you're not, obviously.
I think it's safe to say that I've made an enormous number of mistakes in business, but I'm still here, and I'm more profitable now than I was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And a part of that is, I think it would be fair to say that I over-recruited because I wanted to have the team doing more of the work. So I've now slimmed the team down to where productivity and efficiency are the watchword. And we're making as full use as we can of our 2 offshored team members, and we're now at the point where we're recruiting again. We're gonna, but whereas if I was on my own as a director partner, I would have recruited already. My fellow director partner, it's strange, isn't it? We call them partners, but it's that the business is construed as a limited company. So my fellow director has been a bit more cautious, let's hold off, let's not incur that fixed cost too quickly, and that's what's maintaining profitability. We're at one point, my people costs hit 80% of turnover, which is entirely unsustainable.
Yes, of course.
My people costs are now below 50%.
Yeah.
And we have to have an obvious KPI, a link between people costs and turnover, and that is something that, well, we don't look at it every month, but it's always there, and especially when we've got a hiring decision. And we try and hold ourselves accountable. We've always been a member of one of the various groups. So for many years, I was in the AVN group of accountants.
And you've been part of BNI as well, haven't you?
Yeah, BNI, but that's useful as a small practice marketing tool.
Yeah.
And it's also useful because you get an element of sales and marketing training.
Yeah.
But it's completely useless when it comes to practice help. And I'm for a few years now, I've been part of the AGC group, and lots of good things. If anyone's interested in joining, I'd love to talk to them.
What is the AGC group?
It's the Accountants Growth Club, fronted by Heather Townsend.
Oh, it's Heather's, isn't it? Yes. God, I know Heather, and I know the Accountants Growth Club.
Yeah.
I realised I'd never heard of it as AGC before.
Right. Yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. But I've been through, as I said, these two groups. I've also done the Cranfield School of Management Business Growth course, and I think it's actually really quite important to have some sort of external formal training, and for each of these things, the beginning thing that I went in was quite a lot of work, quite a lot of learning, quite a lot of time and labour intensiveness dedicated to going through all the bits and pieces that they could tell me and I could learn and work with, followed by then a course here, a workshop there, and stuff like that, and also for quite a few years, I've had an external coach as well, because I'm firmly of the opinion that you can't actually review yourself.
Yeah.
You can it's really easy to see the problems in somebody else's business, but it's really hard to see your own, because you've got a bit like you've got smell blindness with your own home, you've got business blindness with yourself.
Oh, I love that analogy. And of course, you're speaking my language. You're not a client of mine. I don't think you have never been a client of mine. But the principle, absolutely, is why some people choose to work with me. I love that that analogy. Smell blindness in your own home. And business blindness.
Business blindness, yeah. And I think it's really true. The other thing that I find interesting, and my wife finds intensely frustrating, and my business partner, my business partner or my wife will say we should be doing this, and I'll say yeah, but when my coach says it, I do it. And why? It's okay, really. But anyway, for all of,
I've got clients like that, Jonathan.
Yeah, for all of you guys out there, if you want to improve your business, you need an external coach.
Oh, thank you. That's a wonderful message to finish the sort of the formal part of the interview on. I think. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, whilst you're not advocating me, we've not worked together, but the principle, fabulous. Yeah, absolutely going for that. Philippa, having heard everything Jonathan's got to say, and just before I ask him to share his contact details, what would you say makes his firm unique and successful?
Well, I think if there's a prospect out there with a business who is always kind of scared of talking about finances or making a mistake, that sort of thing, and there are a lot of people out there like that, and they are frightened of accountants and having those conversations, I would say that getting in touch with you would be a very, very good idea, because you are very happy to talk about all of the mistakes that you've made, and I'm sure that in doing so you make people feel very, very comfortable. So you say here that you're the friendly accountant, but it's probably you're very approachable, I would imagine. So that would be my takeout, that I've made enough mistakes myself that you don't need to feel worried about it. That's what I'd say.
One of my favourite comments by a client was, he said, I can't remember exactly, but it said something like, "You're nothing like I expected an accountant to be. You're better." And and partly that's you have to like and respect your clients, and we're here for them. It's not about my business, my ego. We're here for them, make a difference for them. And absolutely. Sometimes that difference is you just need the compliance work. Sometimes that difference is you need something that's down the various tax specialisms that we do, and sometimes it's just you need someone to be your trusted advisor.
Yeah, it's very, very, very true. Thank you for that, Jonathan. Should anybody listening want to find out more about you and your firm, what's the best way for them to do that?
Email at info@jvca.co.uk or touch base on LinkedIn. Always happy to make new contacts.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And in our bonus interview for Patreon subscribers only, we'll ask you to talk about the biggest challenges you're currently facing and how you're addressing them. And given the high level of honesty and openness you've shared so far, I'm sure that's going to be fascinating. And we'll also ask you to talk about how you're integrating AI in your practice as well. But before that, Philippa, how can listeners find out more about you?
The best way is to get me on LinkedIn. And if you're looking at a way of telling your story or standing out or showing your uniqueness to your prospects, then do get in touch. And Mark, what about you?
Well, you can find me at bookmarkly.co.uk. Even the business card is a bookmark. Running a practice, I know, can feel lonely, and Jonathan's alluded to this as well, even when things look fine. And I think my clients would echo his thoughts that working with a coach or a mentor actually helps you get things done. Whilst I don't charge as much as some for my services, I still think that clients tend to think, well, if I'm paying for his advice, I should damn well take it. And I think that's the difference, Jonathan, between a spouse and a colleague as well, because one's not shelling out money for their input in quite the same way. Anyway, if you want clarity, better clients, or calmer days, I'm always happy to talk. No pressure ever. Obviously, you can also find me on LinkedIn. And do please contact and connect with both Philippa and me on LinkedIn, and follow the podcast on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Patreon.
But that's all we have now. Time for now on the main podcast. Thanks very much, Jonathan. It has been great to speak to you, and we'll find out more shortly. But before we do, we must thank our sponsors of the podcast, Pinnacle Global Group, your trusted outsourcing partner. Do check out their website and let their CEO, Mayank, know that you heard about Pinnacle Global on this podcast.
And thanks to the Tax Advice Network, the easiest way for accountants to reach specialist tax advisors. Remember, there's no charge for using the website findataxadvisor.online, where you can also access weekly tax tips written especially for general practitioner accountants.
Yep. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share, and leave a review. It makes a real difference.
Absolutely. Thank you again to both Philippa and Jonathan. I guess next week will be Paul Reed, who actually approached me about being on the podcast at the end of December. Please get in touch with Philippa or me if you'd like to be interviewed on the podcast as we head towards our 100th episode.
Yeah, but before then, we're going to get further insights from Jonathan for our Patreon subscribers. So please head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/accountantsuccesssecret singular. Don't ask, that was one of Mark's nightmares. Yeah. That's where you'll hear about the biggest challenges currently facing Jonathan and his approach to them. We also ask our guests to talk about how they're integrating AI into their practices too.
Otherwise, until next week, or anywhere else we might meet online or in real life, bye-bye for now.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.